From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I'm Sony Gray. Ecuador's former Vice President Jorge Glas has been discharged from hospital and transferred back to a maximum security prison. Supporters of the Vice President gathered outside the hospital as he was moved to the jail. Now, Glas's health deteriorated after 17 days on a hunger strike. He is serving a 6-year sentence for allegedly managing a corruption scheme involving the construction company Odebrecht. He maintains that the charges are politically motivated.
¡Estamos contigo, Jorge! ¡Estamos contigo, Jorge!
Meanwhile, a court has ordered that the former president, Rafael Correa, should stand trial for his alleged role in a 2020 kidnapping. We turn to Denise Herrera for the details.
Judge Daniela Camacho ordered that Ecuador's former president, Rafael Correa, along with former intelligence agents Raúl Chicaiza and Diana Falcón, and the former Minister of the National Intelligence, Pablo Romero, should go on trial for the alleged kidnapping of Fernando Balda. However, the trial will remain suspended while 2 of the defendants are outside of the country.
Interpol had every element to process the detention. Now it has elements to call him to trial. The judge has presented strong arguments. She even rejected some of her arguments. This is very coherent. I don't see how this is the red alert on Interpol can be avoided.
Correa's legal team condemned the ruling. His lawyer, Caupolicán Ochoa, said that Judge Camacho took this decision without any technical or legal basis and argued that the whole case is a political persecution against Correa and his supporters.
What we are surprised about is how the judge is reaching conclusions. She did not mention the arguments of Correa's legal team. She just summarized the arguments presented by the prosecution and the accuser's legal team.
The process did not follow the rule of law. The judge said, without any argument, that there was an illicit action. We wonder how they are going to prove that there was a kidnapping.
Members of the Citizen Revolution movement and other supporters gathered outside the National Court of Justice in defense of the former president. They criticized the measures taken by the current government against Correa and expressed surprise that the main public newspaper prepared a front page with the judge's decision hours before she announced her ruling.
This is the kind of justice we have to face in Ecuador, brothers of the Americas and the world. We denounce what is happening to the international community and the abuses of the press that judge with their headlines.
Despite this latest move against the leader of the Citizen Revolution movement, Rafael Correa's legal team insists his fight will continue at the international level, where Correa has already gained a lot of support. According to them, even Interpol has ignored the arrest order requested by the government. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
Student movements in Colombia have suspended dialogue with the government after 27 days of strike action. The students say the government doesn't have the will to find a solution to the budget deficit affecting public universities, and they have called for more protests this Thursday and for a meeting with President Ivan Duque to resume talks. Social movements and workers' unions are joining the national strike called for by the students' movement to reject the government's proposed economic policies and social reforms.
A call for a nationwide demonstration to protest tax reform and budgetary measures resonates around Colombia. It's being made by pensioners and others from the education and agricultural sectors.
We will be giving the first answer to Ivan Duque's government, saying that we reject the tax reform and demand its withdrawal. That measure is tantamount to robbery, as it will dig deep into the poor man's pockets in Colombia.
Social movements say the tax reform, which includes an increase in value-added tax, is unacceptable. They say this will lead to a hike in the price of basic items, which the most vulnerable already cannot afford. And they say fiscal adjustments in education and pensions will only serve to increase inequality in Colombia.
The core problem is not only bad, but all the measures in their entirety which pretends to impoverishment of middle-class people. And the existence of a middle class is fundamental to democracy because it allows for social mobility, so others can strive to move upwards and have an opportunity to access wealth.
The government and the president have previously stated that there is no other way to address the $14 trillion budget deficit, but center-left parties are not convinced.
Small and medium-sized companies have an unfair advantage. They earn all money from taxes and do not pay duties on unproductive land. The state gives money to these entities and they do not return a coin to any municipality or department. We need to resist and change how we collect the money.
Former vice presidential candidate Ángela María Robledo says Álvaro Uribe's failure to support VAT on basic items is only smoke and mirrors.
No hay que llamarse a mentiras ni engaños.
We cannot fall into lies and disillusions. Who was it that first proposed the tax reform on basic needs? Was it not Álvaro Uribe and his minister? They did it in 2006, and with his neoliberalism, they are doing it again.
Friday, November 9th, social movements, labor unions, students, and farmer organizations, among others, will set a date for the next national strike.
The 17th meeting of the ALBA TPC Alliance will take place in Nicaragua this Thursday. Member countries of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America will discuss political and socio-economic issues during the meeting. The Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, and Venezuela's Foreign Affairs Minister, Jorge Glas, have arrived in Managua to attend the meeting.
The Bolivarian Alliance, the People's Alliance, has to unite, not only to resist, but also to move forward. This is why we are here, to move forward for the union and integration of our people.
And our correspondent, Maria Jose Diaz, has the latest from Managua.
The delegations are already here in Nicaragua for this meeting of the Political Committee of ALBA, the Bolivarian Alliance of the Peoples of Our America. The meeting is taking place in the Foreign Ministry here in Managua. They arrived on the first flight of the Venezuelan airline Conviasa from Caracas, and they include the Venezuelan Foreign Minister Jorge Glas, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonzalez, the Bolivian Foreign Minister Diego Pari, as well as delegates from El Salvador, Grenada, Antigua and Barbuda, Cuba and other countries. We should remember that ALBA is completing 15 years of promoting complementary trade relations between these countries of the Americas. We'll be following the meeting through the day.
The Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel has met with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping on his official visit to China. Now, Díaz-Canel was welcomed by Xi Jinping with a ceremony in the Great Hall of the People in Beijing. The leaders spoke about cooperation agreements in different sectors to reinforce mutual ties. The Cuban leader is on an international trip, his first since he took office in April. He will next visit Vietnam and Laos. Representatives of the migrant caravan in Mexico City are hoping to meet President-elect Andrés Manuel López Obrador this Thursday. And while migrants say the meeting is scheduled, the government is yet to actually confirm it. Hundreds participated in a session where they discussed when they will leave the Mexican capital and the routes they will take to reach the U.S. Now, some migrants said they wish to stay longer in Mexico City, while others wanted to continue on the journey to the United States as soon as possible. And the first migrant caravan is bedded down in Mexico City, where volunteers and others are pitching in to help them. Our correspondent Pablo Perez has more.
Much needed shelter after the long journey. Over 4,000 migrants can rest their heads before pushing on northward. Here, the youngsters can play games and take part in fun educational activities, simple things that put big smile on their faces.
They started approaching and we were offered them sweets. That's how we gained their confidence. Then they started drawing and playing with balloons, and from there both children and adults joined in the activities.
For many, the opportunity to play and learn is as important as the clothing and food donations they get from various organizations.
They are more rested, their minds are open, and I think that this is helping them so we can move forward.
Volunteers say that this opportunity to help members of the first caravan has also been a learning experience for them.
I wanted to personally come and meet them so I can see from my own opinion and not to be swayed by all the negative things that are being said on social media. The people that I have met in the caravan are so nice. They are very kind and just quiet and peaceful.
At this Mexico City shelter, migrants are also provided with information on their rights. They are told how they can go about applying for shelter or asylum, that this is not limited to 2 states, as was the program proposed by outgoing President Enrique Peña Nieto.
For either humanitarian reasons or as free refugee, you can seek shelter or asylum, and I think these people have the right to look for the best option in any state.
Before they resume their journey, the migrants are hoping to meet with President-elect Andrés Manuel López Obrador. From educational activities to legal advice, Mexican civil society has given support to the Central American exodus.
We'll take a short break now. Don't go away.
We are always there tracking the news. We seek equality. We defend the truth. It's a hard job, but we are not alone. We count on a new ally.
Welcome back. Peru's public prosecutor, Pedro Chavarri, has initiated an investigation into the former president, Pedro Pablo Kuczynski. This in connection with allegations of vote buying to prevent his impeachment. The investigation was also started into 4 congressmen and a former minister. Now, Kuczynski was in office from 2016 to March of 2018 when he resigned over a corruption scandal. Brazilian President Michel Temer has met President-elect Jair Bolsonaro to discuss the transition of power. They both have promised a smooth transition between governments. Temer handed over the symbolic key of the transition of office to his successor and invited him to go to the G20 meeting at the end of the month in Argentina. Bolsonaro will take office officially on January 1st.
Brazil cannot waste the knowledge of those who have gone through the presidency, and that will be useful to all of us.
Brazilian people must get together and fraternize, give each other hands for Brazilian prosperity, and I have already seen that this is exactly the position of President-elect Bolsonaro.
Bolsonaro has also met with the Brazilian Supreme Court President, Dias Toffoli, in the capital, Brasilia. He vows to defend the separation of powers during his tenure. The president-elect also says he will foster good relations with the Supreme Court during his administration. But the future Justice Minister, Sergio Moro, admittedly says that he has differing views on some of Bolsonaro's proposed policies. At the first media conference after accepting the position, Moro spoke about Bolsonaro calling social movements terrorists and his controversial gun law. Moro also declared that his ministry will not be used for political persecution. A group of 176 Haitian migrants have returned to their homeland from Chile. They are the first in a series of humanitarian flights described by migrant groups as forced deportation. The initiative requires those leaving to sign a declaration that they will not return for 9 years, and also asks that they take any immediate family with them. Over 1,000 people have signed up for the flights back to Haiti so far. Around 150,000 Haitians have emigrated to Chile in the past 2 years.
We Haitians are the most humiliated because there are foreigners in Chile other than us, but the Chilean authorities decided to make an airplane available for us to return. So, those Haitians that didn't work, that couldn't do anything, voluntarily returned. In any case, there's no place where you can't die.
Social movements have protested in Buenos Aires, Argentina, asking the government to declare a food emergency. Hundreds are also demanding an increase in funding for charity canteens. This is to protect this country's most vulnerable. The demonstration was sparked by the significant rise in food insecurity and hunger, especially in Argentina's poorest communities. On Wednesday, the fourth criminal proceedings against the activist Milagros Sala began in Argentina. The social leader has been deprived of her freedom since January 2016. Now, so far, there is no conviction against her.
The case of the new trial against Milagros Sala is known as the shooting of Azopardo.
9 years after the case occurred, and after not having significant advances, the accused appears. His name is Paez. He was a fugitive when he was arrested. He denies the testimony of several witnesses and alleges that he was sent by Milagros Sala. Until that moment, April 2016, nobody had ever mentioned Milagros Sala in this case. That was enough to accuse Milagros Sala of attempted murder.
On October 27, 2007, according to several witnesses, 2 men reportedly shot Alberto Cardoso. However, Judge Puyén y Hermanos accused him of attempted homicide. Analia Tolava denounced that her husband was tortured and extorted.
After that long week of torture, he was taken on 2 different days to the residual court where the judge of the Puyén Hermanos case was, and on 2 different occasions without notifying us or the lawyers. They offered him to make a statement saying what Paez had also said, that he had been hired by Milagro and that he had received orders from Milagro.
In total, 7 hearings will be held, and 26 witnesses will declare. The sentence will be known on December 19 of this year.
We hope to unveil what happened so long ago, in 2007 on the one hand, and on the other hand to evidence this judicial persecution that ceased against Milagro in the province of Jujuy, after the swearing-in of Gerardo Morales in government, who started cases that kept her in prison. Let's remember that the first case that was initiated and for which she was deprived of her freedom was a social protest.
Milagros Sala has spent 1,026 days arbitrarily deprived of her freedom, and so far, there is no sentence against her.
Sumo wrestlers in Venezuela are fighting to be considered among the elite in this ancient Japanese sport. Now, sumo began in Venezuela in 2012 with the first national championship in the city of Maracay. But wrestlers keep fighting to popularize the sport. They actually perform combat in popular neighborhoods, as they also believe that sumo is a great tool for social work. El Salvador's Ministry of Education is putting on a school farms festival. By doing so, it hopes to instill and develop an entrepreneurial spirit in students of all ages.
The Orchids and School Farms initiative aims to develop skills in agricultural production.
School children can now enjoy a healthy food menu in their schools. You can see children enjoying various natural juices made from spinach, lime, or even cucumber. This is something they didn't have before.
The festival took place in San Salvador's Libertad Park. Students from 4 different departments took part. Across the country, there are nearly 2,000 orchids and 21 school farms that benefit over 160,000 students.
We are eating healthier produce. When we make our own food, we know it's clean and it has no pesticides, unlike buying stuff from the supermarket.
Using agroecological techniques, young people are taught how to protect the environment and how to stay healthy. Environmental organizations provide guidance for students, by teaching them how to plant native seeds and reduce the use of toxic chemicals for clean production.
This shows us that this can be done. We need to teach young generations to grow their own crops and do it in a sustainable manner. We need to teach them to protect the environment.
Investment in these orchids near $1.6 million and has spread good agricultural practices across communities.
We'll take a short break now. More news after this.
We are present at every event where our nations are staring. We believe in a new global vision, united in every broadcasting. We keep expanding our horizons and working on a closer and better communication. Now, in Grenada, Telesur, the news source from South America and the Caribbean.
Welcome back. A mass shooting at a California bar has left 12 people dead, including a police sergeant. The shooter has been identified as 28-year-old former Marine Ian David Long. He was found dead inside the establishment, but it's not clear if he took his own life. Police say they are also not sure whether he had any links to terrorism. The bar was hosting a college country music night on Wednesday when the shooter barged in and opened fire. He reportedly used smoke grenades and a semi-automatic weapon.
I saw a gentleman walk in like a black outfit, just like a quick disguise, had glasses, black shirt, and then I just pulled out a gun, started shooting, and I saw the first two shots that was at a girl that was working the front desk. Started crawling away to like the side exit, and then once I saw the door open, I started running out, and then I heard gunshots behind me, and they sounded close, but I didn't know if they were coming toward me or not, but started running, finally got access to my car.
Speaking at the media conference, Ventura County Sheriff Geoff Dean got emotional as he announced the death of one of his officers.
Sergeant passed away at the hospital about an hour. I only mentioned it might be terrorists because that's where we all go these days when we have multiple shootings like this. There's no reason for it, and we have this horrific death. I have nothing to lead me to believe or the FBI that there is any terrorism link here, but we certainly will look at that option.
And a man has been arrested for allegedly plotting to assassinate Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. The 63-year-old suspect is an expert marksman who modified his own weapons. He had allegedly planned to carry out the act over the government's decision to exhume the remains of the dictator Francisco Franco. 16 unlicensed firearms, including a pistol, were found in the suspect's home. Rwanda's public prosecutor is seeking a 22-year prison sentence for a leading political activist and opposition member. Diane Rwigara is accused of inciting insurrection and forgery. She, however, denies the charges, dismissing them as politically motivated. Rwigara is a leading critic of the President Paul Kagame and was blocked from challenging him in last year's election. She appeared in court alongside her mother, who faces a similar charge. Pro-government forces in Yemen have advanced in their battle to control the city of Hodeidah. According to sources from within the hospital, dozens of combatants were killed as pro-government forces closed in on the center of the rebel-held port city. Government forces, backed by the Saudi-led coalition, have attacked Hodeidah over the last week. The city is the last rebel stronghold on the Red Sea coast and port for entrance of humanitarian help. Our correspondent in Cairo, Nayara Tado, tells us more about the conflict.
Pro-government forces continue to advance toward the city of Hodeidah, while combating Houthi rebels who are entrenched in the city. According to a report from the Yemeni Defense Ministry, government ally troops are stationed in a road 2 kilometers far from the port city. This is the only road that connects the city to the capital. The report says the Saudi-led coalition launched airstrikes against civilian housing in Hodeidah. The Human Rights Ministry said there has been an increase of airstrikes, especially against civilian buildings, including buildings containing tons of flowers and wheat. This ministry also asked for an international and independent commission to investigate the massacres and crimes led by the Saudi coalition. Saudi Arabia launched wars against Yemen in March 2015, and in June 2018 they launched an attack against Hodeidah, despite the warnings of international institutions which said this will worsen the humanitarian crisis. Conversations were mediated by the UN in an effort to stop the conflict, but in September the Saudi-led coalition intensified attacks. Hodeidah is the main war front in the country and the main point for humanitarian aid to reach in. The UN has warned Yemen is facing a famine situation.
And that report has taken us to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website, tellusyourenglish.net. And for our viewers in Africa, remember we are on Star Channel 461 in South Africa and Channel 539 in Nigeria. Everyone can follow us on social media though. We are on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For Tell Us Your English, I'm Sonia Gray. Thank you so much for watching.